Hey guys, and welcome to the week 4 vlog. You might be able to tell I'm able to do some things normally now. I actually got a haircut today. So in this video today we're going to go through quite a few things. We're going to initially look at my walk. I'm going to show you what it feels like and looks like to walk in a VACOped boot. I'll demonstrate a little bit around the VACOped boot and my first experiences with it. At the end of the video I'm going to show you some exercises that I think are useful to do when you are struggling with this injury. I'm actually going to do a full workout follow along. I just think it'll be good for people who don't know what they're doing to do some exercises. I'll link that, but at the end of the video I'll show you some exercises that I think are interesting and relatively risk-free. I'll go through 2 bits of equipment that I have bought and my views on them, actually returning one of them, well, at least one of them. I'll talk about my biggest takeaways from week 4. So the big 2 things I got up to was I went to see my physio for the first time, and my physio is actually a specialist in Achilles injuries. He's active in research, and he also treats NBA players, so people who struggle with this injury, and it's very common in that sporting environment. Lastly, I will go through some comments. So I got a comment on one of my videos. I hope there's more as this becomes more. I hope there's more as more people tune in. Please ask questions. If I can answer them, I will. If I can reach out to someone in my network who might be able to answer it, I will do the same. And who knows, other people might answer your questions in the comments too. And please let me know how you're getting on with your own injuries. And yeah, feel free to let me know in the comments, please. So, let me show you my walk. As you can see, I can put down quite a bit of pressure on this foot. I can stand, which means I don't need the stool anymore in the kitchen, which is quite good. I can evenly distribute my weight. I had to take my crutches up a level because, as you can see, there's a massive wedge on this boot, which I'll show you in a minute. And I've got an even up on the other foot, which you can see, but I'll show you. But yeah. I know what you guys are thinking. Wow, that's a sexy walk. Okay guys, I decided to sit on the floor for this one so you don't end up looking and staring at my crotch. One thing that's useful to know is I bought this thing. It's an even up. It goes on my shoe. When I'm trying to walk in the VACOped, it just helps level up, and it makes the walk a lot comfortable. It just kind of sticks onto the bottom of the shoe like that. Really useful. I think it's £30, so quite expensive for what it is, but that's kind of common, it seems like. The things you're paying for. The VACOped boot isn't cheap. I actually bought my VACOped boot used on Facebook Marketplace, so you may want to have a look and search for yourself. I bought it for £50 versus £280, so definitely worth the saving there. That's the heel. So there's a heel that comes on and off this, which is good for just general hygiene, and probably don't need it now since I'm demonstrating. So in terms of getting in and out of the boot, I'll link a video which is way better. First time you do this, you should do this sat on a seat, and you put your foot into the material first, and then you put it into the boot after. You have your heel elevated, so your foot is still in that equinus position and never like totally neutral or 90 degrees at the ankle. So just watch the video, because this is not a demonstration, but I would say the first time I used it, it felt really delicate when you take your foot out of the cast, and I came out of the cast at 2.5 weeks. So if you come out even later, at 6 weeks, say for instance, then you're going to feel even more delicate because there will be more deterioration in the muscles. Who knows, it might be better healing for your condition because the joint is closer together, the ligament is tendon is closer together. But you will have more deterioration the longer this is totally immobile. So initially it felt really sore, but as you can see now, I'm kind of able to navigate it pretty easily, go in and out of the boot. But it's as simple as, once you're kind of used to it, I'll go slowly so I don't screw up on camera. It's just a case of placing your foot whilst it's still in that pointed position, which is really important. Getting your heel right to the back of this boot, because you don't want it moving around or slipping around when you're trying to put pressure on it, because you just, this whole purpose of this is to maintain the angle. So you can put pressure on it. If it's not tight enough around or well placed enough, then you know you've got more wiggle room, and that's exactly what you don't want. So I work out in this sometimes, I can wash the liner, but to be very honest, I would keep this on if you're working out, because that is when you're probably in a position where you're greater at risk of injuring it again. But sometimes I do, if I don't think I'm doing anything standing or where I'm going to move. So if I'm doing something ab focused, I'll put this on, just because you do sweat. The sweat will get absorbed and you want to keep this thing clean as possible. So you do wash this, but you know, it takes time for it to dry. That means time out of the boot unless you have a spare liner. I don't, because I bought this off Facebook Marketplace. So I would say that's it really for this. It's been really useful. Keeping it on at night is critical. I have this stretch reflex, so sometimes I just wake up and I want to stretch. And that is a moment where I might do something like this, or try to engage in something like that. I've noticed it, and thankfully the boot stops it. One day I fell asleep accidentally in this on my bed, and I felt that reflex, and I jerked out of bed, woke up, I felt a bit of kind of, luckily nothing happened, but I did feel like I stopped it in time. This did stop it, but nowhere near as much as this boot. I always sleep in this boot, never sleep in this other than that mistake I made just dropping off. So don't do that. It is not worth going back in your journey for the discomfort this might cause you in your sleep. Me, I'm perfectly happy with it. It causes me no discomfort. I get pretty good sleep with it. It does get a bit warm, it's summer now, but frankly I don't care. I'm sleeping in this for the next 8 weeks until I come out of it, and if not longer. I'm so scared of that stretch reflex, or in your dream you might think you're running or walking. Often I feel like this shin just wants to kind of just be used, and if you pull on that muscle at the front of your foot, your toes are just going to go in this position. You're going to potentially just tear your Achilles by ripping it. So just keep this thing on. Out of interest, I bought this. So this is a sock that I used to use in my old cast, and now I used it with this. Initially I showered with this in there, being really careful. Now actually I'm confident enough to shower without a boot on, being really careful when I get in and out of the shower. This actually went over the VACOped boot, but it was just such a hassle and so difficult. I did it once and I didn't do it again, I don't think, maybe twice, I'm not sure. You'd be surprised that this small hole here goes over the VACOped boot and still creates suction around the leg even after that, which it did. I don't know how many times it would do that, but it did it at least once or twice. And that's about it. And my physio told me to wash my foot. Really important for hygiene. Obviously you don't want to end up with another issue, especially if you end up thinking you might need to go for surgery later down the line. They won't operate if you have any sort of infections around that area. It just makes you much greater risk of your operation becoming infected, and that's a whole nother problem that surgeons hate and want to avoid. So that's it. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, so you'll know, I'm a part-time personal trainer. So I went and started this engagement where I was delivering classes. I take my crutches everywhere. I'm able to put some weight on this. I'm able to demonstrate exercises. I even, with one of the classes which it was really quiet, there was only one person that actually attended, and I could see they were quite self-conscious, so I ended up doing some of the exercises with them, so I wasn't just kind of making them feel more self-conscious by watching. So able to do a lot with this boot on, and you should generally be exercising, they say. I also taught kind of a bigger class of 6-7 people to come through a HIIT circuit, demonstrated the exercises, so you can do and get back to quite a good part of life, depending on how strong you are, I guess, depending on how much you want to do and how confident you are you're not going to slip. The most exhausting thing for me is getting from the car park, and I borrow my mum's car, which is an automatic, so that's all fine. I believe it's 2 weeks after you've done something like this. Obviously, if your injured leg is the left leg, then your right leg is free to drive on automatic. There's no negative downside for me. I don't feel like it's made any difference in my driving capability there. But the walk from the car park to the actual place is exhausting. And then being on the crutches for long periods during those 2 days, 2.5 days I do. Thankfully, there's a big gap in between, because the day after, I'm just knackered. I didn't know what it was the first time, and then I realized after it's just I'm exhausted from being on crutches for such a long period, and the upper body just taking that weight, even with the boot. So I totally rest the next day. I don't work out, and I just try and recover. So be careful with just doing too much too quickly. Again, for me, it's kind of the right balance, but I need to make sure I rest afterwards. The physio appointment I had was really good. I'm still in this VACOped boot. My physio doesn't want me to do any exercises yet because he's concerned. Most people he sees, but given that he's a physio for high-end athletes, most people just go and get the surgery within a day or two of being injured. So he doesn't see a huge amount of people that go down the functional conservative route, but he does see them. So he said that he'd prefer I don't do the exercises for a few more weeks and stay in this position. Right now the boot is adjusted, so you can put the VACOped boot to 30 degrees. I adjusted it just this week to 25 degrees now, and I should be adjusting it maybe again in a week or two, but my foot is in that kind of pointed position as it would be if you're in a cast. I believe if you're in a cast they set it at around 30 degrees. The pink cast I had on, I didn't have it on for long, thankfully, because life is generally harder being on that because you can't put any weight on it, but that's not the reason I'm that thankful. It's mine actually hurt, so I think they might have cast me slightly in the wrong position, and the cast was really giving me an ache on my ankle. So when I taken that off, there was swelling in that area. I don't know if it was because of the angle that they put me in a cast for, but to be in the wrong position slightly for 6 weeks where there was a little bit of pain that was nothing to do with the injury, I imagine can't have been a good thing. So I'm quite glad to be out of it. There's still some swelling there, but generally there seems to be less. But that might also be because I'm using this foot. There's actually more blood flow because I'm able to put it down and do a lot of other stuff. I think I'll probably have to go to a part 2 for week 4. So let me show you the rest of what I wanted to